A freedom fighter rises. Mozambique was once a Portuguese colony where people had little control over their own lives. Samora Machel, a nurse and farmer's son, believed this had to change. He joined Frelimo, leading the fight for independence. Machel inspired thousands, using guerrilla tactics to challenge colonial rule. After 10 years of struggle, Mozambique gained independence in 1975. Machel became the country's first president, bringing hope to millions. He worked to build schools and hospitals, aiming for equality and justice. Machel's vision was a united, independent Mozambique, inspiring others across Africa. Samora Machel was not alone in his fight for a new kind of Africa. He was part of a powerful group of leaders who shared similar dreams. They believed that African nations should be truly independent, not just on paper, but free from the control of powerful Western countries. One of his closest friends and allies was Robert Mugabe, the leader fighting for freedom in neighboring Zimbabwe, which was then called Rhodesia. Machel opened Mozambique's doors to Mugabe's freedom fighters, giving them a safe place to live, train, and launch their attacks. This support was incredibly risky, but Machel believed their struggles were connected. Another important figure in this circle was Thomas Sankara, the young, energetic leader of Burkina Faso. Like Machel, Sankara was a revolutionary who wanted to break free from old colonial ties and build a self-sufficient nation for his people. They were like the new kids on the block in African politics, full of bold ideas and a refusal to accept the old ways of doing things. They shared a vision of Pan-Africanism, the idea that all African countries should work together to solve their problems and support one another. Their friendship was a symbol of a new generation of African leaders who were determined to forge their own path. Across the Atlantic Ocean, Machel found another powerful ally in Fidel Castro, the leader of Cuba. Even though their countries were very far apart, their ideas were very close. Both were socialists who believed that the government should play a big role in creating a fair society for everyone. After Mozambique became independent, Castro sent a lot of help. Cuban doctors and teachers traveled to Mozambique to help build the new nation's health and education systems. He also sent military advisors to help protect the young country from its enemies, showing a strong bond of solidarity between their two revolutionary governments. These friendships were more than just political alliances. They were a brotherhood built on shared ideals. Machel, Mugabe, Sankara, and Castro all saw the world in a similar way. They believed in justice for the poor and oppressed, and they were all fierce opponents of colonialism and imperialism. They supported each other's struggles, shared resources, and stood together on the world stage. They were a network of revolutionaries who inspired each other and gave hope to millions of people around the globe who were also fighting for a fairer world. Their cooperation showed the power of unity in the face of powerful opposition. While Samora Machel was building friends across Africa and the world, he had a very powerful enemy right next door. At that time, South Africa was ruled by a system called Apartheid. This was a cruel and unjust system where white people had all the power and black people were treated as second-class citizens with no rights. The Apartheid government was terrified of leaders like Machel. They saw his success in Mozambique as a dangerous example for the oppressed black population in their own country. Machel's vision of a free, multiracial society was the exact opposite of everything apartheid stood for. Machel did not hide his hatred for the apartheid system. He actively supported the groups that were fighting to end it, especially the African National Congress, or ANC. He allowed ANC freedom fighters who were considered terrorists by the South African government to have safe houses and bases inside Mozambique. From these bases, the ANC could plan their activities and organize their struggle against the racist regime. This made Machel a direct threat to the apartheid government's survival. They saw him as someone who was helping to fuel the fire of revolution right on their border, and they were determined to stop him. The South African government used many tactics to try and weaken Machel's Mozambique. They launched a campaign to destabilize the country, which they called a total onslaught. They supported a rebel group inside Mozambique called Renamo, giving them money, weapons, and training. This started a long and brutal civil war that destroyed much of the progress Machel's government had made. The war created chaos, destroyed infrastructure like railways and schools, and caused immense suffering for the Mozambican people. It was a clear message from South Africa: if you support our enemies, we will make your country pay a heavy price. Despite all this pressure, Machel refused to back down. He continued to speak out against apartheid on the world stage and provided unwavering support for the liberation movements. He became one of the most prominent leaders of the Frontline States, a coalition of southern African nations that stood united against the apartheid regime. His courage and defiance made him a hero to millions of Black South Africans who dreamed of freedom, but it also put a giant target on his back. The leaders in South Africa saw him not just as a political opponent, but as a mortal enemy who had to be neutralized. The story of Samora Machel took a tragic and mysterious turn on the night of October 19, 1986. He was flying home in his presidential airplane, a Soviet-made Tupolev Tu-134, after attending a meeting with other African leaders in Zambia. The plane was supposed to land in Maputo, the capital of Mozambique, but it never arrived. Instead, the plane suddenly veered off course and crashed into the side of a mountain in a place called Mbuzini, just inside the border of South Africa. Samora Machel and 33 other people on board were killed. It was a devastating blow to Mozambique and to the entire African continent. The apartheid government of South Africa was the first to investigate the crash. They quickly announced their conclusion. The crash was the fault of the Soviet pilots. They claimed the pilots were unprofessional and had made a fatal error. However, this explanation was immediately rejected by Mozambique, the Soviet Union, and many other experts around the world. Too many things about the crash seemed suspicious. Why would an experienced flight crew get so lost, so close to their home airport? Many people immediately suspected that South Africa's apartheid regime was involved in Machel's death. The main theory of foul play centers on a clever and deadly trick. It is believed that South African military agents set up a powerful portable radio beacon on their side of the border. This decoy beacon was designed to broadcast a signal on the same frequency as the navigation beacon at the Maputo airport. The idea was to fool the pilots into thinking they were approaching the airport runway when, in reality, they were being lured directly into a mountainside. This theory gained more weight when it was revealed that the real Maputo beacon had mysteriously lost power that night, making the decoy the only signal the pilots could follow. Years later, after apartheid ended, South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Commission looked into the crash. They found some evidence that suggested the South African government was involved, including testimony from a former military agent who claimed the crash was an assassination. However, they couldn't find enough proof to make a final, conclusive ruling. To this day, the death of Samora Machel remains an official mystery. No one has ever been held responsible. For his family and the people of Mozambique, the questions still linger. Was it a tragic accident, or was it a carefully planned assassination of one of Africa's greatest revolutionary leaders?